gamers, Melko6925 bringing you another Clash Royale video, and today we're going to be looking at a card breakdown. Now, if you remember last time we covered the card breakdown in the training camp. Today we are going to be looking at Arena 2, or Arena 1 should I say, the Goblin Stadium. So the 5 cards that we're going to be looking at and going into a little bit of detail are firstly, the Spear Goblin, second, the Goblin himself, third, the Goblin Hut. Then we're looking at the lovely lady herself, the Valkyrie, followed by the Lightning Spell and the Goblin Barrel. If you wasn't aware, guys, could you see where they came up with the name Goblin Stadium? Now you're gonna go into the Goblin Stadium after you finish the first 7 fights in the training camp. This will be the first time that you'll be facing off against real opponents. You will stay in the Goblin Stadium from 0 cups up to 400, at which point you will then go into the Bone Pit. Can you see a pattern emerging here? So guys, we are going to look at the cards in Arena 1, the Goblin Stadium. The first up is a lovely little common with a card that I use on a regular basis, the Spear Goblin. What happens is it's a 2 elixir cost card that spawns 3 goblins with spears. So obviously they do range damage at 5.5 and they can attack both air and ground. These are a very cheap unit, and if they are packed, they can pack a punch if behind a giant or something like that. I tend to put spear goblins behind some other troops, so potentially behind a golem, maybe behind the Valkyrie, behind your giant, behind barbarians. Just let them pepper opponents. They only do 24 damage as level 1, but you have 3 troops doing 24 damage every 1.3 seconds. That adds up very, very quickly. And they are a very cheap cost as well. So not only are they okay on offense, on defense as well. So if someone's throwing in a Goblin Barrel, they're a cheap troop to get down, to distract those troops, to do some damage, to take them out relatively quickly. Again, they're very good at distracting troops as well. So they're very good at distracting, say, the Knight or the Prince or something like that. Now, they are susceptible to things like arrows and Bombermen and things like that because of the low HP, but overall a very cheap and a very effective troop. And next up is another common in the little level 1 Goblin himself. Again, this costs 2 elixir and spawns 3 goblins again. Now these do 50 damage. The only difference is instead of having spears, they have little tiny knives, so they'll actually stab you rather than launch their spears at you. So they do more damage, but they can't obviously attack air troops. So that's the main difference between goblins and spear goblins. The goblins can't attack air troops, but have more damage, and the spear goblins can attack air troops, but have less damage. You'll use them for the same kind of role again. On defense, they're good distraction, can take out troops relatively quickly with the hit points, etc. But they will go down very quick. On offense, they're a good distraction, they're good at taking down single troops such as knights and things like that. So a very effective troop at a very low elixir cost. Now, I've just exchanged the spear goblins in my deck for goblins because I was playing along for quite a long time and realised I've got loads of troops at this moment in time that can take out air troops. So why not stick the goblins in, who actually just pack a bit more of a punch, and that at this moment in time is working very well for me. This takes us up to our first rare. This is the level 1 Goblin Hut. What you do, you put that Goblin Hut in place. It's got a lifetime of 1 minute. All you would do is drop that at the back of your base, and it will release a Spear Goblin every 4.9 seconds. That will release a level 3 Spear Goblin. So every 5 seconds, from the moment you place it to the moment its lifetime runs out and it's destroyed, it releases a goblin, a Spear Goblin. This is great at sticking on a lane because if no one defends that against them goblins, then goblins over the course of that minute will do several hundred damage to one tower. I mean, that's a fantastic amount of damage just from one 5 elixir cost troop. You can just pop that off and leave it and let it go. It's also good as well if you can get them to go behind a giant or something like that, so they can all build up. So you have 5 or 6 spear goblins packed behind a giant at the front, taking the bulk of the damage. These guys are going to pepper those opponents, no end. Obviously, it's susceptible to the fireball and things like that. But overall, it's a very effective troop for 5 elixir. Now, you'll find a lot of people use this in the spawn decks. We'll get onto spawn decks at some point in the future. Basically, it involves having a Spear Goblin Hut, Barbarian Hut, Skeleton Spawner, things like that, the Witch, things like that, etc., that spawn a lot of troops, just overwhelming your opponents with numbers. I am going to be doing a spawner deck guide at some point in the near future, so keep an eye out for that. But that's how you use the Goblin Hut. Like I said, it's very good in that respect. It's good at getting behind troops. It's also quite good on defense, because obviously it slows down your opponent's troops if they're coming down the same lane, etc. Doesn't work in all decks, but at this low level, it's quite effective. Next up is the lovely Valkyrie. She's a tough melee fighter who deals damage around her. What she does, she gets her big axe, swings it round her head, and it's all the troops in the local vicinity, just like in Clash of Clans. She costs 4 elixir and does 110 damage every swing, averaging out at 73 damage per second. That's for a level 1 Valkyrie. Like I said, she is a rare. She has 800 hit points, so she's got quite a high level of hit points, and she's great at taking out low hit point troops. So great at taking out goblins, barbarians, things along those lines, archers, etc., etc. Especially good at taking out things like your skeleton army. As soon as they swarm round, they just get obliterated within seconds. She's not so good at taking out high hit point troops, because the damage output is relatively low. So you're not going to take on a giant with a Valkyrie or a prince, because you're just going to get mowed down. No way you're going to be able to take on, say, the mini P.E.K.K.A. or a knight straight on. But if you have other troops in there as distractions, dropping in a Valkyrie, she's going to mop up those troops, especially those low hit point troops, in a very short space of time. The Valkyrie is not a card I've used very often, so she's quite good on defense for taking out your Goblin Barrels, things like that. And like I said, she's okay on offense as well, as long as if she's got support, or if she's actually running into the middle of a pack of spawning cards, so a lot of goblins and things like that. Okay. Next up is our first epic of this level. This is the rare lightning spell. Bolts of lightning hit up to 3 enemy troops or buildings with the most hit points in the target area. Reduce damage to crown towers. This is a 6 elixir cost unit, guys. All you do, once you've got 6 elixir, you select where you want the lightning bolts to go, and boom, that lightning spell hits that radius, anything with a 3.5 radius. The 3 troops with the highest HP will take the damage, and it'll be 650 damage that they take. That's a fantastic amount of damage to take on high hit point troops. So things like your barbarians, etc. If you've got, say, a witch, a valk, a knight, all in the same vicinity, you've got a giant in there, you've got that mini P.E.K.K.A. It's fantastic at taking out, or at least inflicting a large amount of damage on a good number of troops. Its big weakness, though, is that obviously it does have reduced damage to towers, but also it does cost 6 elixir, which is a large amount of elixir to save up, especially at this stage in the game. It's not a card I use very often. It's not a card I've used much at all, really, but it is a solid card in the right deck. Just remember, though, guys, a 6 elixir cost is a lot. Next up is the second epic that you can get in Arena 1, is the Goblin Barrel. People love this card just because of how fun it is. What you basically do for 4 elixir, you get 3 goblins, you stuff them in a barrel, and you throw them across the field, and wherever that barrel lands and smashes, 3 goblins come out with their little knives and start attacking whatever they hit. It's a fantastic spawning troop to obviously take out, to target crown towers, if you need a distraction for troops and things like that. It costs 4 elixir, so it does cost more than the normal goblins. The difference is, though, you can launch the goblins wherever you want to physically launch them. And that's the one big benefit of that. Like I said, they are susceptible to things like arrows, to archers. They're susceptible to the arrows themselves. 3 elixir, so obviously a 3 elixir cost for arrows will take out a 4 elixir Goblin Barrel. But as long as if you time it right, especially when a crown tower is quite low and the opponent is low on elixir, get those barrels down there onto that tower and they will do some serious damage. You could always use it as well as distracting troops and things like that, but it's not the best use of elixir for that. You have other troops that you can use for that purpose. My advice is wait till your opponent's low on elixir and there's potentially a hog rider or a knight or something else on the crown tower, send that goblin barrel right down to the end into your opponent's end and let those 3 little goblins go to work on those towers. You will see that tower melt within seconds just with those 3 little goblins there. So guys, they're the 5 cards that you can unlock in the Goblin Stadium. All little dirty devils, I would say, apart from the lovely Valkyrie, who everyone loves, at least to look at. So guys, the next video we'll be doing is the belt pits. So there'll be 5 cards in Arena 2 that I'll be covering, and it will cover from trophies 400 to 800. Keep an eye out for that video. If you like what you see, hit that subscribe button. Any comments, comment below, let me know. If you've not subscribed, please subscribe. Every subscriber at this point is fantastic, guys. We're trying to grow this channel, and every subscriber is a massive bonus to all of us. So guys, that's it from me. Thank you all very much for tuning in. Like I said, any comments, comment below, let me know. If you've not subscribed, hit subscribe. Hit that like button, see if we can get to 10 likes, and I'll see you gamers next time. Take care.